Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Pernigo bringing you another Cause Monarchy cast, and we are once again back into tournament season, tournament casting. It is time to review some of the replays from Tribunal number 6, the last Tribunal stage option where you could play one single elimination bracket, best of fives all the way, qualify if you win all of them, and some pretty impressive players did qualify there. But we need just one more from this stage, and then we can open up the gauntlets, which as of the time of recording have already started to be played. But we have some interesting matchups to go over in this Tribunal stage, and then we can get to those open qualifiers. At some point I will show the bracket, that won't be in this video, but rest assured this is the first quarter-final matchup. We have Sosij taking on ThunderSlaps. This is Protoss versus Terran, but with a twist. ThunderSlaps is actually rolling as random, but selective random. Something Cause Monarchy added sometime recently was, and I say Cause Monarchy like it's an entity, it adds things to itself. Yes, of course, the self-assuming, self-assembling Ouroboros, or however you say that word, Ouroboros. You end up in a situation where you're looking at the dev team, me, and a few other people, adding this to the game. But shout out to Jesse, one of the lead developers for the code changes required for that, and it lets you pick which races to be random. So you can exclude, even in the context of not having a fourth race, as in the way that we have with Sosij, you could exclude, as ThunderSlaps has done, Protoss and Sosij from the list, even in a game like Starcraft 1, where there's only the 3 races, because yes, we have a fourth race, that is a thing in the game, I was just casually talking about, but we do have that. And yeah, basically in a game where there was just the vanilla of races, you'd still be able to say, I only want to play 2 races. I don't want to play my worst rated race. No, thank you. I don't want a chance for that. But Cause Monarchy also tells you, when you play in the ranked game mode anyway, what race a player has rolled. So when ThunderSlaps opened this up by saying, you lucky, as soon as we started the recording, that was because his printout said that it was Terran. I mean, his opponent knows what that is. You can't like mind game and pretend you got your bad race when you got your good one. It tells you, ThunderSlaps has been assigned the Terran race. So pretty cool stuff anyway. That is just how it is sometimes. We're talking about our epic features because the game itself isn't particularly speedy or expedient. And in this particular case, ThunderSlaps are, I'm going to call him orange. I thought it might have been pumpkin, it was orange. Eggshell blue Protoss here is Sosij. That's a color I can name from a mile away, and often do. Sosij looking for an expansion. Mind you, ThunderSlaps has gone for a very avant-garde 4 stockade build on one base. Listen, I don't know the guy very well yet. I still need to experience life and think a little bit more about the choices ThunderSlaps makes, but rolling random for this particular event, his Zerg was interesting. It definitely has a place in, say, the Battlement stage if you can qualify through the gauntlets. But his Terran, I'm not so sure about right now, guys. Let's see how Sosij's early Draken pressure fares against it. Has this been a mistake for ThunderSlaps to randomly roll Terran, or is he actually going to do something about it? Good kiting control from Sosij. Doesn't end up losing too much of any amount of damage onto these Striders. It looks like only one took a bit of hull damage. These are the Dragoon replacements in Cause Monarchy, and they work pretty much the same. They just actually turn and fight and look like units, so that's pretty cool. And even despite a couple of ticks, a couple of hits from the Cyprians and the Harassans rending the armor, that's our Firebat replacement, it doesn't really look like this has gone very well for ThunderSlaps. This does look like Sosij is finishing the job. I guess this is where I can say we see where the sausage is made. That's it. He ends up winning the game, and that call will go in the part of the hype video where he's qualified into the tournament, and I can say that. We only have that particular matchup in the dock, though. This is a best of 5. Let's see what happens when we go to our next match. All right, and we are into our second match. As you can see, this is the live recording view, courtesy of Jujic. I guess the replay did not survive for this or the next game, judging by my notes. So Sosij in the top right, once again, Eggshell Blue Protoss, and ThunderSlaps appears to be orange again. Although, I mean, YouTube compression makes this, it could be any number of colors. It's really odd. That being said, this should be an interesting matchup. Our last map on Sylphid, by the way, Frozen Sylphid, a version of Neo Sylphid. This is before Sylphid 3 had the advent upon populations, but that seemed like a really minor change to the map. Much more in the minutia of something like StarCraft 1's actual environment, whereas obviously Cause Monarchy changes a lot of stuff we probably don't need to necessarily replicate those changes. If you actually know something about Sylph 3 and disagree, let me know. Actually, I'm always down to encourage our community mappers like Biddy B and Jujic, Jujic being the admin here in this case as well, definitely embedded in the scene. We do love a good suggestion for those people. So if Sylph 3 ends up making the game really good in StarCraft 1 and you think it would also help in Cause Monarchy, feel free to drop that in there anytime. Suggestions there. We are stuck to Jujic's view, and it looks like he may have alt-tabbed in the middle of this riveting gameplay. We have a Fulcrum coming up for ThunderSlaps. He has rolled Terran again. I didn't even have to change the overlay. And Sosij is rocking what appears to be a 3-gate, judging by the production tab and the size of his buildings of the minimap. Second Fulcrum on the way, and our worker count is rising nicely for both players at this stage. By the way, players probably are aware, viewers are probably aware. Oh, we got camera control back, boys. Hell yeah. Thanks, Jujic. And we also were talking. Oh no, it looks like it was only a 2-gate to begin with. Okay, I was just a little bit early ahead of my skis there. We're talking about which structures were finished. It is in fact a 3-gate. I was prophetic, but I thought I was already right. It turns out I was right later in the future. This is annoying. And Jujic's back to not observing, so we don't know how much HP that Mason has, but that's all right. What was I in the middle of saying before all of that? Oh, he's starting to repair it. He's starting to try to heal it. All right, there's the Vulture coming out. They got plenty of time to get across the map. And with ThunderSlaps rolling Terran multiple times now, this might be a bit of a problem for him. And I do have to say, and that was where I was going with all that. I started talking about Sylphid. What I ought to have said was this map is Macroglia, or Macroglia? Macroglia. I don't know. Yeah, I think I decided it was Macroglia, but I forgot. Sorry, guys. Different guy. The Dracodins and the one Zealot are going to be more than enough to repulse the Vulture, but at least he can lay some mines. Something that... he actually doesn't get a chance to lay the mines. Wrecked, says Sosij. Here, let me see if I can turn the volume up for you guys too, by the way. Sorry about that. Live production, guys, except it's not. It's really not, because look, Jujic's at the very important moment here, looking at the choke point. There's not much else to look at, I guess. Just laying mines, adding more gateways or whatever. Sosij looks like he's adding an embassy, so that'll let him expand in different ways. But you got Macroglia, and it should be an interesting, set of maps here to choose from. At the time of recording, I have actually already chosen all of the maps, but if you think about it, the last 3 Tribunal stages had a completely different map pool to the first 3. They all featured completely distinct maps, and that was so that we could test and vet at high levels of competition across half of our Tribunals, entirely different maps, but it wasn't changing so often that there was no time to adapt to those maps. Also, crucially, the first 3 Tribunals and the last 3 Tribunals had a gap in between where I was developing the Sosij, so that also contributed there a little bit. This is a map that I don't believe I've chosen, and I say that because I chose the map quantity or whatever, which maps were actually chosen. I did that a while ago, but I don't think Macroglia made the list. It could be. It would be really funny if it did. It was one of those maps that I had a hard time deciding if I wanted in or out. I wanted it in, but could I justify putting it in based on the style of map and stuff? Anyhow, this is as loud as the video gets, so we're just going to have to enjoy that little ASMR. There's a drop incoming. It looks like it has like 2 Zealots and a Dracodin. You can fit the same, that's the same thing as what you could fit before, even though Zealots cost more transport space. Dracodins and Zealots cost the same transport space now, I believe, and that is kind of funny to think about. But let's see. Oh, it was not the Zealots after all. It was just 3 Dracodins. He literally just drops 3 Dracodins. That's what he does, dude. That's 3. And while that is 3, the Ministry's got a lift to let the mech army come back, and now Cyclops are damaging all of the Masons, and the Masons aren't going back either. So this is a little bit cumbersome for ThunderSlaps to be dealing with while his Palladium is on the way. That's going to enable all of his Fulcrums to make Phalanx, our siege tank equivalent, as well as one other unit, the Madrigal, though I doubt we will see that in this particular roster. ThunderSlaps is not back to mining Vespines, so that's a big problem because he is trying to make Phalanx now that his Palladium is done, but he can't because even though they mostly cost minerals, they do still cost Vespines. So he's making a lot of Goliaths. He's going to see what he can do as far as making life a little bit annoying for Sosij. And it looks like some mines got tripped over there by Sosij's side, so that's just at the same time as the Nexus is being taken. Remember, he didn't actually attack with a ground army of any size before. What actually happened instead was that he dropped the 3 Dracodins, so he actually never escaped his, not really containment, but like the the warning signs should have never been flashing for ThunderSlaps if he didn't know that the Envoy was coming. So in theory, a pretty good build here from Sosij, but it does delay his expansion. And as you can see, the Ministry here in the natural is already starting to produce, and hopefully we'll start giving returns back to ThunderSlaps. He is down by 4 workers, but his secondary town center is much, much better insofar as it's done, and the other one is halfway complete for Sosij's natural. So he's also Terran. He can hold. He's got a couple of mines there that'll just slow things down a little bit on an attack move. Probably won't cause any actual stuns. Oh, I say that. There's one right there. No, I've been talking a big game about ThunderSlaps being fine, but then he stands right on top of his own lobotomy mine, and I guess I'm a rapper. Got an opportunity to pop up that witness, but actually the DPS is needed for the Striders, and he is sort of bullying ThunderSlaps back. He sat in some of the AoE fields for some time. Another Phalanx Shell, that's going to soften up multiple Drakodons. The Vulture and the Goliath should be able to make quick work of that. But remember, ThunderSlaps did lose a little bit during this time, and the drop in the main base has already killed a Mason and a Watchdog. It's likely to claim more in the meanwhile. Sosij trying to once again push forward. He's playing a very aggressive style. If this gets held, the production and the economy is actually going to be a little bit better for the Terran player, considering that Protoss does need to invest more into breaking these positions. At the very least, it looks like Sosij has secured a worker lead, but I don't think he can finish the game here. I think there's a little bit too much that ThunderSlaps has. This Drakodon in the lower south of the bottom left of the base is still firing on Masons. It's actually wild. I think upon further reflection, Sosij has likely done enough economic damage to win out in the long run. ThunderSlaps, if he won here, it would be from a very big deficit and comeback. This would be a humongous comeback, actually, the more I look at it. He's down multiple Masons. So many of his workers, something I didn't really rate very highly when I was thinking about it. I thought, oh, the worker count's actually still pretty close. But so many of his workers, even before he died, he had so many die, were not mining for a really long time. And even though Sosij is just comically gifting him a couple of Drakodons here, or at least 1.5 in terms of hull damage. Definitely something that ThunderSlaps needs like 10x more of, and then he can maybe say that he's even again. He needs time to build up his economy. He needs time to secure a more defensive position. And Macroglia is not a map with easy third bases to take. At least not as easy as you would like if you're already having to break out of your own natural contain. It's not easy to conservatively leapfrog into your bases, stepping into your bases. This is a map where if you can get away with a fast third that's maybe a little bit on the greedy side, great. Like good mind games or something if you can manage to convince your opponent of that. But otherwise, you need to be steady and just build up a solid, on par with your opponent. If you're already put behind by the early game on Macroglia, I do think that your third base just comes out a little bit too late if you're not dying over attempting to take it. So keeping all that in mind, a stockade is coming, likely Vestry, so that you can get some shamans to clue up on those poor mechanical units that take so much resources in order to repair. A Drakodon and a Hierophant in a drop. Oh, vision system. Huh? I don't know what he expected, but for some reason that's way funnier. That's way funnier. He just didn't have vision of the Envoy. His Watchdog barely shot it. ThunderSlaps doesn't even know. He's like, what are you guys talking about? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can tell the tiles here have no vision. So when the Envoy isn't here, you can see what the Watchdog was seeing, and it just wasn't seeing the magic spot of the Envoy. Really funny. If you guys don't know, actually, units in StarCraft's engine don't get rendered until a certain amount of their central box is shown, I believe. So even if you have vision of, in theory, the pixels around it, like in terms of like what Fog of War actually reveals, that's why there can be times where units appear to manifest with many more pixels than what their actual graphic is. Like they seem to be halfway on your screen when they are revealed in Fog of War. That's the effect that at least I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. It could be that I made that the fuck up, and that would be really funny because I explained it really confidently. But I'm pretty sure that's what happens, and that's not just me being silly. Triple Cleric into Shaman sounds like something that's silly, but maybe it'll be good. I mean, Clerics did receive a pretty big buff recently-ish, like within the last tournament cycle, where their heal also gives the target extra armor. I believe it's +2 armor. It was buffed to recently. But the mechanic, I don't even think, of increasing armor actually existed until like between Acropolis 3 and Acropolis 4 now. So Have to see what Sosij can do with a Kabbalist entry. But look, there's a lodestone already here. There's no way you expect a lodestone. Nobody builds that add-on. There's like almost no reason to even bother with it. That being said, ThunderSlaps is still suffering a little bit here. He's got one of these Kabbalists in his base, not really doing a whole lot right now. There is an anchor there. It doesn't actually have any units in it. Jujik's not actually clicking on it, but it does indeed have a Goliath in it. So there you go. A little bit of info there. The Kabbalist shouldn't be able to get another kill. He does end up picking off two Masons. It looks like he might have been clicking on the ones to see which ones were wounded. My only concern is, did Sosij just spend all of that time? I mean, part of this is the observing. I actually can't see what Sosij has been doing too much, but was he microing his little heart out with those Kabbalists and not actually remembering the macro? I mean, it looks like his resources are fairly low. He does have that third base on the way. It does look like it's actually done, but he's not massively making workers right now. Shaman is out. That's clearly something that is near and dear to Jujik's heart. He had to click on it and pet it a little bit. But the Kabbalists have been dropped out. And there's only one Goliath for home defense. That Fulcrum is still not even being made. A couple of Kabbalists are revealed. He's going after the Palladium. It's not a bad idea. The Goliath and the Anchor is in range, and he just deploys the phalanx. I mean, I don't really know what I expected. Look, he dodged the shot. He couldn't even shoot. So he uses two Kabbalists and an Envoy in this case for the single phalanx. I don't know why I want to call him Kabbalists so much. Deploy the Kabbalist. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Now, this is a pretty scary army, actually, for ThunderSlaps. His Terran showing that at least with mech, he can meet the production. Remember how far behind ThunderSlaps was earlier in this game. Vagrant flank. The two Vagrant flank comes in, not exactly the most useful. And these middle gas ridges here that have been being created, or being harvested rather, by the scribes, has been giving Sosij a little bit more of an economic advantage than even his faster third base would entail. But I still think that ThunderSlaps could threaten him. He's definitely got a lot of action going on at that choke point that thankfully Jujik now shows us. Architects have sighted. I did see those in the production tab. That's double unitary union, a third one finishing up, and 2 out of 3 are crucible empowered. It feels like an unforced error to not put the third one there, but Sosij might not even need it, because as soon as you start having that architect like dispersive salvo passive kick into gear where they're splitting their shot to increase the number of targets that they actually hit, and it's based on how far their weapon travels, you're starting to hit so many targets, and they're beefy shots. These are 40 damage a pop. They don't ignore armor, but armor is not ever going to be in enough number to reduce that kind of damage. And we're talking about charlatans. The charlatan debuffs enemy units, and it makes it so that whatever unit that they attack starts to hallucinate, which increases the damage dealt to that unit basically by 50%. You hit them with a Dracoden projectile, it shoots out a second one. That's why you're seeing so many projectiles there. And it does still count for the Architect, which will split the missiles again. It's ridiculously synergistic if you can keep it up. And ThunderSlaps wasn't deployed in the right ways to gun down those charlatans or threaten the actual backline, the Architects, which they do outrange when deployed, but the Phalanxes could never get clean shots off at them because the front line collapsed way too hard. And ThunderSlaps, he did have a number of Goliaths, but it felt like something was doing, maybe it was a Zealot stealing friendly fire with him or something like that. I know Sosij had some Zealots, so that definitely worked out. And yeah, that's the Sosij water, I think. Monument of Sin coming on 3 bases. Yeah, why not, dude? You got some cash. He's got his Architects coming in a pretty nasty line. This does not look like a match that is long for this world, and I have been expecting Sosij to close it out for some time now, but ThunderSlaps, he did put on a good attempt, a good fight. It's actually deceptively difficult for even the Terran artillery here to deal with the backline of Architects and stop, shell them before they can get close. You need vision of the backline before they start attacking, and you need some way to hold off the rest of the army and deliberately not shoot them because you need the Phalanx cooldown for something else. Now the Zealots are closing in. You got some Clerics out here to try to help out, but the Assylians here, I mean, it's there for a little bit of armor pen. It won't suck versus those not deployed Phalanxes. It'll basically ignore all of their armor pen. And Sosij is actually pulling back. Not entirely sure why. Maybe he wants to play with his Monument of Sin, if you know what I mean. Obviously, you would say play with his Sosij, but his name is Sosij. I can't say that. That's too unoriginal. Please. If you want me to say unoriginal comedy, you got to pay me way more. Coffee.com/Pronogonvik7. Anyway, the Phalanxes are coming out in an attempt to defend. Actually, we're getting a rare little bit of, we're not really getting the footage, but we're getting Jujik looking around at the map architecture. That's how you know he's a mapper. He's like admiring the tiles. What is he doing? That's so funny to me. I swear I'm not being BM. That's actually just really charming me. It's just, yeah, hold on. I know there's fighting happening. I got to look at these tiles, though. You shout out Biddy B for this map, dude. It's beautiful. You can tell Jujik appreciates it. For all I know, he helped with it. It's been like that sometimes. With the witnesses spotting, we're seeing the inverse problem of what I was trying to talk about when I was talking about the architect and the phalanx and how their ranges interact. The witness is providing the vision the architects need to do a little bit of damage to things like those phalanx, even when they are able to outrange the architects. And that's because ThunderSlaps has no vision over here. No flying units, no Anseal, nothing that can provide him anything, not even a lifted structure to give him a little bit of help. Please, we need help. Juju keeps looking at the tiles. Now, in the background of this, a Star Sovereign is in production. I don't know if we're going to wait until that unit actually comes across the map here. It is a pretty slow, lumbering thing, and ThunderSlaps has just been a punching bag for a little bit. He's been getting Thunder slapped. I really remember being surprised when he said that he was going to play Terran too, and I'm not saying this to rag on him, but I do think, I just know factually that Sosij has lost way more PVZs against ThunderSlaps. So I do wonder about his decision to make to pull out the random. Remember, this is a single elimination tournament. You don't even have if you get the better luck of the draw and you don't play Protoss because your one matchup that's weak is TVP, you'd prefer ZVP, but you can't race pick. You have to actually random. And we'll never allow race picking, by the way. It's so silly. Hold me to this. Clip this. Put this in your folder. If we ever allow race picking in one of our premier tournaments that's actually all about being a premier hot shot player, just send this to me. Clip this in this, please. Please and thank you. I'll take a sip off of that request. So, phalanx shots are definitely shellacking some of these architects once they step into vision. And you can tell ThunderSlaps is still being pulled in by that almost, it's like a Blitzcrank Cook in League. He's just like, hey, I'm attacking you with high damage. What you do about it? And also, I am noticing that ThunderSlaps has not used this little high temple ridge here from his main base. He's actually been really heavily abused by the range advantage of the architects, but he has the ability to see down the cliff if he just uses that high ground. And so it just occurred to me now that he could probably put siege phalanxes there, or maybe like a floating watchdog or something far away from the anti-air of Sosij to actually attack it at the very least. Barghest are coming out now. This is just a flying unit you can make from the same structure that made the Kabbalists and the Vagrants. It's not, and the Charlatans actually. It's not really, they're not really terribly impactful in this composition because when they're decloaked, they increase armor pen of nearby attacks. But like the Architect's dealing 40 damage. The Asiliant has so much armor pen anyway. So compositionally, the heavy hitters of Sosij's squad, they don't actually do that much with Barghest. And ThunderSlaps is going to throw out the GG. Has been crushed at the front while we were looking at the tiles. And there's the Star Sovereign. He had to catch it on the way out. Jujik, the admin. And of course, he has successfully observed that match for us. We do appreciate him having the recording there because apparently the replay didn't work. So we're going to jump into our next game, which is also a Jujik observed match. So stay tuned for that. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for Sosij and ThunderSlaps to duel out again. We're going to Impulsion, another Biddy B map. And ThunderSlaps has hit Zerg. Very good. So we will be able to see a little bit of what Slaps' main race was, or is. Remember, if you guys, there was a really cool match ThunderSlaps and Kasuga played on Monazite in the previous Tribunal. So definitely check that out if you're at all interested. I just feel like that was a really cool match. That was really interesting. Not exactly the most successful for ThunderSlaps, spoiler, but just the way in which it is distinct will always stick in my mind. Love me some island action. Spoiler for the map reveal, by the way. So ThunderSlaps in here in the top left. He appears to be Neon Carrot. That's my color guess. I don't think we'll ever get confirmation of that, but that's what that color looks like to me. And he is going to be going for his Larvosk Open. Sosij is going for a Lattice on the other side of things, and that's pretty interesting. And Jujik is going for the Alt Tab, and that's all right. That happens sometimes. And I guess Pronago is going for the Sip. Here we go. All right, and just as I get back from sipping, there is the Jujik. That was, I realized if I ever just started talking about Jujik's name in public, like, yeah, my buddy Jujik, they would think I was spelling it Jew, and that's just not true, Like, I don't even know Jujik like that. I can't call him that. and a Warden. Oh, Sosij is really worried about like a 6-pool or something. ThunderSlaps is pretty aggressive with Zerg, so it does kind of make sense. He is going for a Larvosk in a pool. Actually, a pretty bog standard build order from ThunderSlaps. He did this in one of the other events that I remember casting him in. It might have even been his debut event in one of the Tribunals. And he just played very standard and lost all 3 games, I think. It might not have been a 3-0 in retrospect, but it felt like he was it just felt like, oh yeah, you have this reputation as an aggressive player. It's what people fear from you. It's what people are worried about from you. And then you don't play aggressive. You actually play standard. I'm not saying he can't play standard. I think he has that layer to his game. At least as Zerg. I haven't really seen enough of his Terran. Those are the only 2 tournament games I think I've ever watched of him. And they were, of course, in tournament play. So that's when you know you need to do your prep. Let me prep on this thing that doesn't exist. Maybe there's some ranked matches I could have pulled from Replay Kraken or something. Anyway, when you're talking about that particular matchup, when you're talking about ThunderSlaps' style, it's just interesting that his reputation is still enduring, because there's not really a good reason for Sosij to go Lattice Warden unless he thinks he's being at least rushed, if not a 6-pool outright. Then maybe just like a pool or later, like an 8-pool for whatever reason. I guess you would like leapfrog it into extra production or something. Have more of a scaled economy for a little bit. It's like slightly more economic, but it's kind of bad on Larva, so I don't really know if it even is economic. Just haven't seen that part of the game develop yet. ThunderSlaps is coming across with some Zeths. He's cleared one of the first enemy targets from the map, but there's I think I just counted 2 Wardens actually, one between the gas. I'm pretty sure. We'll look back there eventually. I don't know why I couldn't confirm that in my own brain, but ThunderSlaps is just going for his typical Larvosk heavy strat here. It's going to be well handled by Sosij's idols. And yeah, actually, there were 2 Wardens, but the structure I actually saw between the gas that I didn't remember what it was actually a second Lattice. And a third one is on the way. So he's really leaning into idol spam. Very good versus pool, historically good. And all of these Larvosks, though, that doesn't mean that ThunderSlaps needs to be going pool units. And his den starts, just as I say this, because he knows that if you're going to go mass idol, I can go like back to Lisk, or even before that, I can just go like Hydra Izzy, and it'll work out pretty well in favor of the den concept anyway. No expansion yet for ThunderSlaps. I believe that's a Zeth burrowed there, or something burrowed there. I don't think it's a Droleth, but maybe I'm wrong. Looks like he's about to put down an expansion. So he does indeed have that burrowed. I just assume burrow equals Zeth for some reason. That's how I auto-complete that. He's got 1 pair of quads to deal with any vassals that are coming out, but Sosij is actually going to make more than just 1. He's actually making 3, and he's got a few more queued up. So this is a really neat little pivot into something that isn't the typical timing of vassals. Vassals are usually show up in the early game as a rush unit where you make you can't make 1. Versus Zerg, you can usually make more, but versus a Terran, you can make 1 to try to force a Goliath early. And players still haven't really quite figured that out, or figured out how to handle that. So that's kind of interesting. I just had to boost the volume a little bit, and then I just realized that every time I do that, I show you guys the time, I think. I don't think the overlay blocks that. So apologies if you're getting spoiled by that, but I didn't even comment on it the first time, and I bet most of you didn't even notice. So if you didn't even notice this time either, then just don't even think about that. There was no time. It was 60,000 minutes long. Watch the entire video. I don't even have ad revenue. That's a horrible idea. Don't do that. Multiple scribes per rotation. Sosij's Nexus is, of course, operational. And his vassals are coming on in at a very odd time. But there's already a Spraith! I don't actually know if they flew over that burrowed Zeth or not, but something clued ThunderSlaps in that he should just get anti-air defenses. And honestly, like a pair of quads is not going to stop 6 vassals, but 1 Spraith will. The Zeths are coming in to do a lot of economic damage. We're already dropping down to 15 workers. There'll probably be a little bit less after that. Here come the vassals, and one of them already goes down. Yeah, he's actually just on attack move, and he loses both, not doing any economic damage back. Looking like a great game for ThunderSlaps right now. It's not the most orthodox situation you'd find yourself in. You would definitely be expecting a little bit more gateway army, a little bit beefier of a front line for what Sosij was trying to do. And then you'd probably also think that the vassals would come out way later. So one of those Droleths has died, and I know what happened here. The range on the Spraith is such that, but combined with the projectile distance, that they can launch shots that don't actually stop until, in this case, after the vassal stopped moving, because it received a move order that was kind of shallow instead of deep away, which makes sense. Sosij would want to be close enough to harass again, and then the last hit from the Spraith aggroed them all back. It's just beautiful AI moment. I love the unit AI moment. I love that. All right, we got Artisans coming out. Sosij is going to try to come back into this game from the tempo perspective by stealing away a little bit of extra resources. And who's to say it doesn't work? He's already got some, what appears to be Artisans in the bottom right, but the third base, so north of his main. And his army is starting to move out, so we'll see what ends up going on there. There's burrowed Hydras and Quads. This is a pretty nasty looking trap. And I know ThunderSlaps likes the Khazetrith, definitely within his wheelhouse and also his resources. But the idols are going to make mincemeat out of the Zeths. They're not really going to be that useful. Oh, well, maybe. They could try to wrap around. I love Vorvs here, man. I think they would go way, way better with this composition. Nonetheless, the idols are still losing out on a lot of their time on this earth, I guess. I was going to say durability, but they're all dying. Amaranth is also taking a bit of damage, but unlikely to do much. Oh, yeah. Fuck that guy. I hate him. Shoot my own Amaranth. Now, the last of that army in the middle is gone, but the artisans haven't actually been discovered yet. It doesn't look like ThunderSlaps is going to with those Quaz Hydra either. He comes on in and see the state of the army, and it should actually empower him here. He should feel like he's got it because he's got way more Hydras coming. Let's see if his attack can actually make things happen. A Warden is canceled out. Well, not quite canceled, actually just full dies. I don't know if the other one was a Matrix or a Warden, but there were two structures warping in that were at least the same footprint. Could have been a Bulwark. Who knows? Wasn't looking. Just telling you what it could be because we have so many units, guys. Cosmonarchy has over 50 units per race. Wild. Crazy. This guy's a little crazy for you. The fact of the matter is, a Hydra just rallied into death. Don't worry, there's a few more where that came from. ThunderSlaps going for a ski-backed scab. My right ear popped. I cannot hear out of it anymore. Help. Send help. Ardent Authority is on the way. We have, honestly, like, with the Hydras coming in and having plenty of Zeth action, this should allow ThunderSlaps to get some damage done, but it's so close, and the Matrixes are going to start switching it over. The big worker transfer, well, that's going to seal the deal, but honestly, I think Sosij started winning that fight at the very end of it, and I don't know if it was target selection or just reinforcement timing. As more Hydras come in, ThunderSlaps can't continue pushing on. He has no front line, and the worker drill actually ends up going away mostly unscathed. I don't actually see any worker corpses over there, so no more scribe wreckage to really inspect. I think Sosij is holding quite nicely. And remember, he has those artisans giving him extra income. ThunderSlaps is behind in a few different ways. Ardent Authority will finish up pretty soon as simulacra are being made. And Agroleth is starting at 8 minutes? What? Not even Hit 'em Up understands this game. Hydras are going to cycle backwards, see if he can't pop some of these melee units. But it looks like he's just trying to escape. A Zorkish Shroud has begun. And I guess the Agroleth is going to be used to expand. No, the third base is going to be going down now. So cancel that idea. Envoy a Cantor. So Sosij is going to open with a drop. I knew there were going to be a Cantors involved. Well, I say that the Cantava starts too. Any betters in the chat want to try to take a pocket bet real quick? Is it going to be the Cantor drop or the Cantavus drop, Storm drop? I feel like it's going to be the Cantor drop, but that's just my bias there. That's just what I know Sosij to do, so that would be what I would recommend. Crucible in the first unitary union of the game beginning. It looks like he still wants units out of that particular structure. My guess is actually that what he's looking for is the Assilient. That's a very good unit for clearing away a lot of the chaff. But I could see him go, like, weirdly, Unar feels like it would be a better tool versus Terran. Or I guess like it can still be pretty good versus Zerg because of the Ultra Core now that I think about it. But Unars are starting to come into vogue. They were maybe always a little bit. When Arbuz was still playing exclusively Protoss back in Acropolis 3, he built Unars versus Krankendow. And they were kind of holding their own for a little bit. And they haven't changed mechanistically very much. So it's not even like patches would outmode that. But styles can. Like if you're going for an Ultra Core heavy style, for example, that's going to be a very different look. The idle drop is pretty interesting. A little bit scary, actually, for ThunderSlaps to have so many workers over here. And he is going to lose a lot. He was pretty close to 40, and now he's down to 32. Oh, it's down way worse than that. Oh, the pain will continue. He still hasn't killed a single one of them. The Zets are out. The Aggro chasing helplessly. Can't stop the flock from getting owned. Down to 30 workers even after a few rotations. 9 more are coming, so ThunderSlaps will recover quickly, but that's a lot of money not being spent on the economy of like getting a bigger economy than that. And it's not even a factor in the case of like, well, yeah, I can definitely at the very least do a military timing or a tech timing. No, you just got put behind because you got to get back to where you were. And also, all the betters, including me, just lost horribly. It wasn't the Cantor or the Cantavus. It was 3 idols. So there you go, I guess. Some Zorius are out. We got 7 Lakes. And of course, it's the Vibrance. That's what Sosij wants out of the Unitary Union. I should have known from the word go. Okay, Tavis is out. Storm gets blanketed down. Not really accomplishing too much right now. Giving a little bit of damage onto the Zorius. That's going to continue stacking up. The shield flash from everything is the Clarion, splitting shield damage across all units in its radius. Very, very nice. The Bactylisks end up getting engaged upon. I've never seen Simulacra walk up on Bactyls and just shoot them in the face, but it's beautiful. It's exactly what you need to see from Sosij as he breaks out. He's going to end up killing both Bactyls with pea-shooter Sims. Yeah, we got it on camera. Beautiful. Well, there's no third base that thinks ThunderSlaps, but there's so many artisans, says Sosij, and he's actually starting to garrison the 6 o'clock and the 3 o'clock. I mean, this is a little outrageous. Synthetic Synod coming up for Sosij. I have a feeling he's closing in on a secure game, but you still got to give respect to ThunderSlaps as Lake is, especially when most of your army is like units that are just going to group up really tight. At the very least, he's got Witness with him, so he can definitely see it. But what's his engage strategy for that? That's a tool that has not yet been deployed against Sosij's weird army. But I do love that he's trying. A Demiurge. That's the first tier 4 unit of the game being deployed. The trick statement, I guess, because each tier 4 unit belongs to the Protoss, so it's not like Zerg could have done it. But Zerg is going for the Ultra Core. That's the Olgorg Cavern being made. I say he's going for the Ultra Core. Technically, he could go for Gorgra Cores. That's another unit that you can make. Oh, yeah, the classic. I put an engram here instead of a Nexus. I swear that's just to spite people. Like, what are you even doing with that, dude? Leave the space free so that you can actually build a Nexus there if you need a worker queue or something. No, they never think they're going to need that. They just like, no, I have artisans. It's fine. And then a Valkyrie shows up. And not in this game, though. The Olgorg Cavern gives you the Gorgra Core. It's a pretty good anti-ground unit, flyer, but its anti-air attack does give armor rend. It's just not very effective. It's just like spitting a bone at him, but he's got big cleavers for the ground guys. So, yeah, he's definitely all about doing some good damage in that respect. Lakers are trying their best here to hold down the fort, but there's actually no detection for the Vibrants. They are on attack move. Big storm. Oh, game crashed. ThunderSlaps concedes. Oh, shit. Let me rewind then to the last little point here. You can see that it's a better economic situation, but I don't know if ThunderSlaps actually knows. I feel like this would have resulted in Sosij clearing this army fairly decently, still being in a pretty strong position on the map, and even if reinforcements cleared, that wouldn't really have been that good. You can say, oh, ThunderSlaps doesn't have any resources, he doesn't have any units in production or anything, but look over here, like above the rally, there's definitely more Zerg units there. ThunderSlaps still has every right to concede if he wants to. I mean, in the case of if I was adminning this and one of the players didn't want to concede, this would be a situation where I would replay, even though that does kind of suck because this was like a pretty complete game and had some cool up moments. But yeah, I guess since ThunderSlaps concedes, he must not have been feeling it that day. Sosij does indeed end up. Oh, that's Photoshop. Hold on. I got to switch it off. And then I'll boot up Cosmonarchy and then you guys can see that. Perfect. Sosij will concede. ThunderSlaps will concede. Sosij will move on in the match. He'll move to the semifinals. And we're going to check in with that bracket next time I cast one of these because I just didn't have the scene set up for it yet. It also says Tribunal number 5 on the overlay, but it's supposed to say 6. So I caught that this time, guys. Don't leave a comment talking about it. I already fixed it. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, definitely something to keep in mind is that with this Tribunal stage coming to a close, ThunderSlaps can no longer qualify from that format, but he is allowed to sign up to the Gauntlet stage. I do suspect that should he do that, should he participate, he will probably qualify pretty easily. The Gauntlets are currently giving 5 and then 4 confirmed, but probably 5 slots for Gauntlet Stage B. But the first Gauntlet stage gives you 5 slots for sure. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be 5 for the second one, but just waiting on some confirmation of one of the players who didn't accept their invite to the battlement stage. So with that in mind, looking at the Gauntlet stages, it's very likely that anybody with a level of play like ThunderSlaps or around there is probably, good to guarantee to get in, unless we get enough signups of really good players, and then maybe that won't be the case. But at this stage in the game, most of the good players have already qualified. So I'm expecting to see ThunderSlaps there. It would be a little bit of a shock if we didn't. Maybe it would just be that he didn't want to play or couldn't play because of work or something. But if he did, I expect to see him at the battlement stage. That's all I'm saying. Sosij continues on. I also expect him to be there. He was there last year. Let's see if he can do it again. We'll check in with him a little bit more when we get deeper into the tournament. GG.